I will bet you are wondering what is going on. It's now May 2022, and we're all sensing a change in the real estate market in Greater Victoria. If you think something's happening, you're right. But where do we get the information? I'm going to provide you with some current information to help you wade through the current statistics and what's going on in the market. So stick around. Hi, I'm Gary Sims. I'm a realtor in Victoria, BC, Canada. I work with my wife, Rosemary Tulit. We are known as the Rosemary and Gary Victoria Homes team, and we work for the local brokerage DFH Real Estate Limited. Here's our agenda. We're going to look at 6 items in our discussion about what's going on in the market in Greater Victoria. So we're going to first of all look at the historic sales prices and what's been going on over the last number of years. It's been a very hot market, at least for more than 5 years. And we're going to look at those 5 years on Victoria house prices between 2018 and 2022 throughout COVID until current. Then we'll look at specifically the last 4 months, January to April, where we have current information. Then we'll talk about whether the market really is changing. Why is it changing if so? And finally, we're going to talk about what does this mean to you as a buyer or a seller. This information is compiled using statistics from the Victoria Real Estate Board, and of course in your own area this may be different, but I think this will give you some idea about what's going on. So let's get going. We're going to look first at the historic sales prices of a single family home in Greater Victoria. This graph shows us these prices all the way back to 1967 up to current data, which is December in 2021. And it's interesting just to see the trend here. You can see a number of times when it was rising and then leveled off and rose more. And you can see this in here from 1967 until about 1979. It rose a little bit, prices jumped, there was quite an increase, and then we had about 5 years until about 1987 where prices leveled off and pretty much didn't change much. I actually purchased my first house in 1986 for under $100,000 in Victoria. It was a small 2-bedroom, but it's the one that got me started in real estate. Then the prices went up until about 1985 and leveled out for about another 6 years, and there wasn't too much activity. Then around 2001, just after the computer crash, things started to pick up and prices started to go quite a bit into the mid 2000s, around 2009-10, and then it leveled out for a while, and then from about 2015 upward it just went crazy, and we see one little dip in around 2018-19. This is just sort of when COVID was starting, and then the last 2 years have shown really from 2019 to now where the prices have raised significantly. So you can see in Victoria that through the whole history of more than 40 years there's hardly been a decrease in value, and there's lots of reasons, but one reason is Victoria is a very desirable place and people really would like to live here. So now we look at Victoria house prices in 2018 to 2022. This is just really the same information with a bit more numbers. We can see in 2018 the average price, and remember, average doesn't really reflect everything because it can be biased by very low or very high sales. If you've got $6 million property selling, it can affect the average. But the point here is just really to show you trends rather than look at specific numbers. So in 2018, the average house price was roughly $908,000. The average unit sold was 266, and this is over a 12-month. The actual average in the early years is quite a bit higher than this. In 2019, we actually saw a little bit of a dip, and you can see it on the graph between 2018 and 2019, where it dropped from 908 to about 878,000 on average. Sales were down 3.3% during that time. And in 2020, just when COVID started, we didn't expect this to happen, but prices started going up. I guess people maybe really wanted to have single family homes, and the
average price cracked $1 million, and there was about a 10.5% increase from 2018 over prices. In 2021, it continued to rise quite significantly, over 22%, and the rise from 2018 was 32.8%. And in April 2022, with current data, the average price is 1.434 million and change, and that's about 57.8% over 2018. So in 4 years, we had about a 50% increase in the houses, and you can see the steep slope of the graph in each of these year periods on the right. In April this year, the actual sales numbers decreased quite a bit, and in fact, in all 4 months in 2022, we've had decreases. This was 20.6%. So let's look at number 3 now. So these are the Victoria house sales in the last 4 months. In January, we had 474 sales, and in 2021 there were 646. So that was a 26.2% reduction in the number of houses sold in Victoria in this January. February was 718, which was about 16.8% less houses than last year. March was 833, which was about 29% less than last year. April was 824, or about 26.2% less than last year. And that shows a total in the first 4 months of 2,849 sales. And last year was 3,798 sales, or a reduction of about 25%. Now, this is quite interesting because generally our market starts a little bit in January, starts to pick up in February, and through March, April, and May, and into early June, we have a large increase of sales. There's lots of activity because people are out and enjoying the weather and just looking for new houses. But this is quite different. Instead of peaking, it's been reducing over a while. It has gone up a little bit, but you can see between March and April that the actual numbers actually decreased, and in past years, we would have expected a bit more than that. Are we headed now for a balanced market the next while? Or are we looking at the same thing, or will prices go down a little bit? Now, when we looked at the previous chart, 2 charts ago, you notice in here that we've never really seen big reductions in this property. Okay, so let's go on to number 4. So this chart really shows you what's been happening over the last 25 months in the market. This is the total number of MLS listings in Greater Victoria and the total number of sales, and that's for the entire district, which includes all 13 municipalities and area. These are really representing the same data in a couple different ways. The bars on the top are the number of listings, and the line graph is the number of sales. The bottom graph actually represents a little bit better. It might be more understandable. This is the sales of active listings, that are sales that were done in each month to the active listings at the end of the months. Now, this chart is used often to determine what kind of a market we're in, whether we're in a buyer's market, a seller's market, or a balanced market. And I've just done a series of videos on these different types of markets, and you can see the link down in our description section if you'd like to learn more about how these markets work and what's going on there. So you'll note, if you look at this graph, back in April 2020, the percentage was roughly about 15%, and that tells us that we were roughly in a balanced market at that time. However, from then onwards, we've always been above 20%, or really above 25% from about May 2020 all the way till today, and that indicates that we have been in a seller's market. And a seller's market is where there's very few properties and a lot of buyers and lots of competition with multiple offers going on. And it's quite stressful for buyers for sure, great for sellers. Now, if you look at this graph, you can see we have 2 points where the market has changed a little bit. So it changed here in March 2021. So we had a great boost up through COVID till about March, and then it started to reduce and flattened out. And then again this year, it's went up until really till the end of February. And then for the last 2 periods, we've seen a change. Now, this is possibly a change or a rebalancing of the market from a seller's market down to something else, and we're not sure yet where that is, so we'll talk a bit more about that. The final question is the market changing? Do we have enough information to determine that? I myself am not sure of that yet, even though it is a bit different than previous years. We'll watch it for another couple months, and that may indicate a change that could be good for buyers. So let's look at some ideas about this. So why is the market changing? What could be some factors? These are the four things that I've thought about. First of all, we've just recently had a mortgage increase of 0.5%. That has pushed the qualification to buyers to above 5.25%, which was the maximum before. This may cause some buyers to get out of the market because they can't qualify, or else they will be looking at lower value prices. Victoria is not inexpensive, so that may reduce the number of buyers. Therefore, with less buyers, we may see less multiple offers, and that could be an incentive for sellers to perhaps reduce their prices a little bit, but I'll talk about that a bit more. The federal and provincial government's been talking a lot because of elections and whatever the reasons are about housing policies, coming up with all kinds of reasons to help. We don't think most of those are really that relevant. We believe the supply of houses is the biggest problem. There just isn't enough. We're short 1.5 million houses in Canada, but they'll try to find lots of reasons, and when there's really few reasons, just need more houses. The pressure on selling and buying are influenced by what's available. Now also, point 3 is inflation. We've been told that inflation is now creeping in around 6%. That 6% does get factored into house buying, and that can be affecting people's ability to actually buy houses because their incomes are shrinking due to inflation. Another item is the war going on in Europe with Russia and Ukraine. This has caused some issues with oil costs, which is causing greater inflation, and it also gives people a feeling of uncertainty, and maybe some people just want to wait and sort of see what's going to happen in the future. So, what does all this mean? Well, I can't tell you what this means in every market. I certainly have some ideas about Victoria or Greater Victoria. However, really you should talk with your realtor and look at these things. So what I would be discussing would be what are the best strategies for pricing if I'm working with a seller as well as a buyer. What would my pricing be with offering? And I would be thinking about interest rates. Are they going to go up? My own feeling is that they are going to go up. We know for sure that the Bank of Canada has talked about going up at least another whole percentage. Whether or not they choose to do it in big jumps like they did going 0.5, or whether they want to stretch it out over the next 4 to 7 quarters, we'll see. I do believe it will go up. The one thing to remember that even at 4 or 5%, historically there's a very inexpensive compared to past years. I know I paid over 11% on my first mortgage. Granted, with the price of housing now, those higher rates do make a big difference. And are the market sales prices going to decrease? In the Greater Victoria market, there is a huge demand for people to live here, and we really think this is the best place in Canada to live. Got great weather, it's a nice environment. It's still not as pricey as Vancouver or Toronto, other expensive areas, even though it's definitely getting pricier. And we think there's a lot of demand for retirees and other people to move here. We have great industries and technology and tourism, and there's just good reasons to live here. The next question is, are we headed for a buyer's market? We're in a very strong seller's market at this point. I think that we are going to be changing the market, and I think that it will be heading towards a more normalized market, but I think it's way too early to really know whether we'll get to a buyer's market. It's been over 5 years since we've seen a balanced market, and probably longer than that for a buyer's market. The only place you might see that nowadays is down in the eastern part of Canada in some smaller communities. So now that we know some of this, should we buy or should we sell now, or should we wait? My own feeling on this is that the best time to buy is always today. And because in Victoria, when we look at the market for the last 40, 50 years, in general, prices have been increasing. We know there's strong demand. Rates are still relatively good, and every day you wait is going to cost you more money. When you look at the 50% increase in 4 years, I think that if you really want to be in this market and don't want to get priced out, and you can't afford it now, that's a good time to really be looking at it. As far as selling, right now it might be an incentive for sellers to really look at that a little closer, because we do think that the increase in the selling rates will decrease, but we don't think they're going to decline a lot. So really you just need to consider that. Whether you buy or sell now, I guess, is really dependent on your own circumstances. You could talk with your realtor about that and try to decide whether it makes sense. If you would like to comment on this or have any questions, then please add them to the comments below. If you would like the slides used in this presentation, then there also is a link in the description below where you can fetch those. If you like this video, then please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to be notified of our weekly updates every Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.